Yeah, we have. Anyways.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have the one and only Toby Stanley. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday evening at now 6:22. After some very minor technical difficulties. When I say minor, our audio just wasn't recording. So you may have an episode, you may not.
So it could be major.
Yeah,
who knows?
Around and find out.
Thanks
very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, bro. No,
so just picking up where you took, and there goes the aircon. We're on tonight, baby. You're telling us how you just got back from a bit of travel, so 3 months was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and where'd you go?
So the start of the trip was in the Cook Islands, which was a bit of a special one because my twin sister, her fiance actually proposed to her while we were in the Cook Islands.
Yeah.
And his whole family heritage is Cook Islands, so it was a bit of a special one to be able to go there, and we had my mum there and stuff like that, and then all his family, and it was really nice.
Did you shoot it?
Wow.
That was a nice part of
if
it
there was
too.
a photographer there to capture that
Toby's
beautiful moment.
someone get a photo.
Yeah, someone got a photo of a camera.
It's definitely one of my more memorable ones I've done because obviously it was so special for the family and my sister and whatnot. But after that, I went to New Zealand by myself and met up with two girls I met in Portugal last year.
Oh,
yeah.
Shout out to Cairo and Kelly.
Yeah.
And we went for a 2-week drive around the southern part of New Zealand. And that was bloody fantastic. It was awesome. Yeah, no, some amazing stuff. Went to this amazing, it's a national park called Mount Aspiring National Park.
Yeah.
And there was a massive hike that we did called the French Ridge Hut. And that was probably the most grueling thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
It was, I believe it was 32 kilometres, could be wrong. It was 8 hours to get up there. It was about a 6-hour hike and then a 2-hour slog up, actual pretty
climbing.
much 80 degree bloody, it was crazy. You're literally kind of crawling up the mountain using roots and stuff. Stayed the night there and got some really special images that I was really trying to achieve for that trip, which was the elusive kia, which is an endangered species and is mainly found up in the highlands of New Zealand in those mountains there. And I was with them for 2 weeks, then we went our separate ways and I saw some family while I was in New Zealand. Yeah. And then I took off to Japan, and while I was in Japan, caught up with a bunch of friends, went to Snow Machine, and just did a lot of exploring. Nice amount of solo, nice amount of friends, and a little bit of partying. Got to get in there, But it was a very special trip, very nice. One of the biggest trips I've done to date. Last year was 6 weeks in Europe. Yeah. And I've just kind of wanted to do that ever since. I don't know, for a while. Yeah.
Was there anything that spurred it, motivated you? Anything that motivated you to?
In the certain places I went to, or just a trip in general?
Just a trip in general in the places.
Yeah, everyone else was in Europe.
Yeah.
Well, I'm approaching 30 next year, which is a gross number.
So old.
But
Feels good.
In all honesty, I kind of just wanted to get out there and explore. I've always wanted to do it for a really long time. But, some things have kind of held me back a little bit over the years, and I found my little moment of window, so I took it and went out there, and I had a great time. Honestly, it was definitely something I should have done sooner in my earlier years. Earlier years, come on.
Yeah.
It's really not that old.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wish I started travelling a lot younger. Overseas and stuff like that. But and then I came back to Cairns in March this year. And I think because I was away for so long, not everyone knew that I was back. Yeah. So I didn't get any work for a month.
Yeah.
So I was just bloody living on breadsticks for a while there. And then, literally the past month, I've just got about 14, 15 jobs lined up for this month. And then, just kind of spreading out throughout the year. Yeah, no, it's good.
I think that's probably a testament to the reputation you had for years in Cairns. Everyone knows you. Anyone that's gone to a club knows Toby.
The Gilligans days, definitely helped me. Honestly, it was a bit of a stepping stone for me. Actually, it was my stepping stone, Gilligans, because it provided me a place to network, and I was able to meet a lot of people. Yeah. And, I think I also was able to come out of my shell a bit more as well. Yeah. Kind of started off a little bit of a hermit when I came to Gilligans for the first time. And then eventually over the years, you know, you're kind of forced to talk to people. You have to ask them, hey, do you want a photo? And initially that question to me was a little bit scary and intrusive, and didn't, you know, but I use this kind of philosophy a lot in life, and you just put yourself in their shoes. Like imagine if someone came up to you in a club and said, hey, can you take my photo? Would you care? No. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. Really,
man,
honestly,
I'm sure you've taken some photos of some absolute creatures over the years. Eh? People just like,
absolutely.
Man, I walk past the other clients sometimes. I'm like, I'm too old for clubbing. I had my day.
I would get messages all the time the next day going, hey, can you not post that? And I'm like, you should have gotten the photo. Or I'd have like real controversial stuff where people are like, hey man, like you can't post that. Like I just, you know, like if my girlfriend,
I was sick.
If my girlfriend sees that or something like that, and I'm like, you know what? Mate, I'm gonna let it run its course.
Yeah,
you sorry, man, I didn't get your message till yesterday. They're already up. Sorry. That made no sense until today. Until yesterday.
Like, don't have the login, my bad.
No, but yeah, over the years, it's definitely helped me bridge that gap that I've wanted to kind of cover for a while there with making connections and stuff like that. Yeah, I think as well, when you're in that zone, people are a lot more open to come up and say hello, and that kind of gives you a platform to talk and have a conversation with people. Yeah, sure. And I realised over the years, I think, because everyone knows that word of mouth is the best advertising you can get, I think what I broke it down to was, I think I would be shooting about maybe 300 or 400 people a night. Yeah. And if I talked to 10% of those people and had a little chat with them, that's 40 people I've had a little chat with and whatnot. Let's say I make an impression on those 10% of those people. That's 4 people that I now have my name in their mouth. Let's say if someone's asking around like, oh, do you know any photographers? Blah, blah. Oh, yeah, this guy on the weekend, Toby, he's great, blah, blah. I think that was a big part of me being able to...
It's like forced networking.
Yeah.
You're getting paid to do it.
Yeah, well, that's it. Insane. And also, I guess with my editing and stuff as well, I was able to explore through that. They were really great with having me edit how I wanted to edit, and they give me constructive criticism, which was always welcomed.
That should be any line of work.
As well, too. Creative freedom, that's correct, and I think being in that line of work was somewhat detrimental to my health as well, because you kind of, it would get to that point where you kind of drinking throughout the shift sometimes, and then it kind of carried on afterwards or whatever. And I think after a while, it was 5.5 years later, I decided, well, I'm going to drop it for a bit, see what it's like. 7 months, I left, and then I came back for another 3 months, and I was like, nah, no way. And because I didn't have a New Year's to myself for about 4 or 5 years. Well, the whole time I was there, actually, you had to cover New Year's, and if you didn't, then it was kind of like, see ya.
Yeah, see.
It was the most important time of the year to cover,
they're pumping then.
Yeah, but I think now, looking back on that, I don't regret it at all. I think it was the best thing for me to be able to... It's kind of helped me shape myself into this person that's a little more outgoing, out of his shell kind of thing. And I think that's really important to have in this line of work, because no one really wants a photographer that's boring and, you know, a little bit...
Shy.
Shy, whatever.
Because like everything I see with photography is like you've got to make the person feel comfortable to get that the best side of them.
You want to kind of feel like you're with a friend. You want to feel like you're not just hiring a camera, you're hiring a person, a human. You want that human interaction. You don't want to just have someone that's renting, essentially renting a camera. But I think I lost my train of thought.
No, that's so fine. So obviously start with that club work. What's like a lot of the work you do now look like?
It's very mixed bag. I've been charging a lot into weddings over the past couple of years. It started off very slowly for a while there. One thing I was actually thinking about, which I thought was a funny story in preparation to this podcast, was when I was doing these weddings back in the day, probably about, 6-7 years ago, I was so nervous, so nervous. I was wigging out, but I knew I had to just get in there and get it done. And no matter how horrific the day was, it was all going to be a part of my learning curve to be a better photographer in weddings or whatever. And I was like looking up different things on how to like, I don't know, like supplements or something you can have to like calm your nerves or whatever. And
First time I tried ketamine.
And I found this spray that's supposed to be like a calming thing.
Yeah.
And I got it, and it literally just smelled like Jim Beam. So I just pumped my mouth. I was like, it was like recommended 2 sprays. I pumped like 10 in there, like, and then I realized after a while that dude, I smell like alcohol, and I'm trying to talk to these people, and then that wigged me out even more, and it just kind of
degraded from there.
Yeah, it just kind of like shut down on itself. I kind of like shot myself in the foot with that one.
Did you get 5 stars though?
That was actually, I kind of gave it a miss for probably 3 years after that.
Yeah.
Just kind of, And then after a while, I had that same thought where I was like, I just need to get into it.
Yeah.
That moment for me where I realised I need to get into it was a product of this trip I did back in 2020 where I went to Lizard Island with a really great mate of mine, Baden Lesueur. We were both earning $3,000 a month through JobKeeper. We weren't working because of COVID. We both owned our own businesses. And he had a sailboat. He sails. That's his whole thing. And I had a bit of experience. And we both just went, why don't we just get out of here? Well, why don't we, we're earning money.
Yeah.
We're doing nothing with our time. We can't even go out, do things. You can't even really have friends around at your house. So we just took off to Lizard Island, meant to be a 1-month trip. And it ended up being 2 months because we got kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
Stuck is a bit of a rich word because it was just amazing.
Yeah.
It was the best thing that could have happened to it, that whole trip really. We needed a 3 to 4 day weather window or 3-day weather window to get out of there because the winds would. So going up the coast, we had the wind behind us, which kind of pushed us up. Yeah. And it was, maybe might hit 15 knots here and there. But when you're going down into the wind, you've got to apply the speed that you're going with the wind amount. So if you're going, say, 8-7 knots on average, and you've got 15, 20 knots in the nose, that's like 28 knots in the nose if it's 20. So we decided, all right, we're going to wait till we have at least 10 to 15 knots maximum to be able to leave. And we just didn't get it for a long time. And, while I was there, you had nothing to do. So you just became so productive and you have so much time to your thoughts. And I was meditating, I was working out every day, all that kind of stuff. And you don't realise how much that stuff can change your mental...
Just health, clarity, everything.
Mental clarity. And that was a big changing point for me. And I came back and I was like, I just need to go head first into it. And then I kind of started doing a bit more research and was kind of, taking notes and whatnot. And then, I took my first wedding on pretty much the next year after that. And it's just been, I've been into it pretty hard ever since. Yeah. And I'm really enjoying it too. Yeah. Really enjoying it. It's great. And it's also awesome because I get an opportunity to be in that same environment similar to the way I was in Gilligans, where I would be meeting all these people and I always wear my heart on my sleeve. So you kind of take me as I am. Yeah. I am who I am, 100% full throttle. And I think people like that approach more than someone that's whatever. So that's that whole thing with Lizard Island and whatnot really helped get me into a position where I was able to, step out of my comfort zone and try to take on new goals and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's incredible. Have you then continued those practices? Like you obviously just can't keep going back to Lizard Island, but have you maintained some kind of meditation or mindfulness practice in your life to make sure that you still stay grounded?
Yeah, I would like to say I would. I think I'd be lying if I said I do. Yeah. I think everyone just goes through those states in their lives where they are on top of their shit and then, 3 or 4 months later, a year later, they're back to this little rut that they're in or whatever it might be. But it's definitely one of those things where I'm constantly using my shoots and whatnot and, just trying to keep it a little bit busy. And, I just really enjoy...
But I suppose there's a bit of a turning point because, you could, if you didn't have that experience, you could quite easily default back into doing club photography work or just that kind of somewhat soul-crushing type jobs. Yeah. But now you seem a lot more in tuned into, the photography jobs have to actually mean something a bit deeper to me now.
Absolutely. I've been taking on commercial work pretty much for the past 7 or 8 years, something like that. And my first love was live music, and I think that came from the club scene and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's something that I really enjoy doing, and I think what I like to do is I like to put my fingers in all the different honeypots. So I've basically realised that the more work I'm capable of doing, the more work I'll get.
Yeah.
And so over the years, I've just allowed myself to take on
random stuff.
pretty much whenever.
Diversify yourself.
Full blown freelance. Just whatever comes my way, I'll take it usually. Yeah.
Something I've always really admired is like just your ability to do solo travel, and I think it's like without you even realizing is such a skill that either I don't know whether it comes with being introverted, but so many like potentially extroverts I couldn't even imagine doing that. And I remember like really early on when like I first got to know you and Liam and stuff, you had a job, I think it was either north or south, it was maybe like Innisfail or something like that, and you went and did the job and then you were coming back and then you just did like some solo exploration through the bush, went into swimming pools, and you were just like completely just like didn't give what you had to do, where you had to go, and just like went along and did your own things, like, oh, I found this, like sending it all to the group chat. And I was just like how I just could not grasp that concept of you just like enjoying your own time by yourself.
I honestly love it. I think I just really like being in nature.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where, I don't know, you're by yourself and you've got no worries. Like you kind of just forget about everything. You're just out there. And I used to do it a lot when I was a kid. And I think I like to keep my roots quite, you know what I mean? Like,
stay true to your roots.
Yeah, stay true to your roots. And I really enjoy going out there because one, it's fitness, and two, I'll take my camera, get some photos and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's just, it's just time to yourself and whatnot. But I like doing a lot of bigger hikes as well. Like recently, I did a trip down to Hinchinbrook Island. Yeah. Can't really remember what the name of the hike was off the top of my head, but it was 5 days, and you start off. At one point, got dropped off by a boat, and then I was with my mate Rufio. Yeah. Shout out to Rufio. And we started off on the north end of the island, or whatever it was, and then we just basically tracked for about 5 days, taking about maybe 3 or 4 hours, 5-6 hours here and there throughout the day, and then we'd stop, have some food, pitch up a tent, and then wake up in the morning, get at it again. And did that for 5 days, and that was just a really interesting. There was just such a plethora of different types of scenery. Like one second you'll be walking along a beach, next you're in the middle of mangroves. Yeah. Another one, deep rainforest, and then over by the ocean. It was beautiful.
Yeah, really versatile.
And I think it's just one of those things that keeps you active. Nice hobby to have. Yeah. Nice healthy hobby. Yeah.
That's mad. I was gonna say, you're probably like over 10 years now into. Like obviously doing photography, how do you feel like you've kept the passion for it, or what sort of excites you about actually taking photos? And
I think it's because I've been able to keep that thing where I keep my finger in all the different honeypots. I like to keep a variety. I like to keep it interesting.
Doesn't get boring.
I've thought about doing like a niche thing, but I think it's just in, week out, doing the same thing over and over again. I don't want to get stuck in that kind of. I don't want to get stuck in a little rut. Yeah. So I think that's what's kept my passion live, is because I'm always doing things differently. Every single week's different. You never know what to expect. Yeah. Every month. Yeah, it's always consistently changing. And I really like my ability to go off and do these random adventure photography gigs and stuff like that. Yeah. Like there's ones you can do that. I did a shoot for Cairns Adventure Group, where we just went out and did like the waterfall circuit with a bunch of tourists.
That's sick.
Just kind of keep if you're able to keep your cards open, you're able to do a lot more work, and because obviously the more work you're capable of doing, the more work you'll get. Yeah. And I never want to be stuck in that rut again.
Yeah, like only doing weddings or only doing whatever.
Or it was just nightclub for a while there. And that was fun and whatnot, but I think you get kind of caught up in the partying, and it doesn't become about the photography anymore. It's just about the
So you're saying you've got this really nice balance at the moment between like you can work when you need to work and then travel when you need to travel. Has that been always like the motivation of getting into something like photography, where you're like a content creator and you you are your own boss, you manage your own time, location, all of that.
Yeah, I love the flexibility of being my own boss.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to be strict with yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be, you don't want to be too loose where you're not obviously committing enough to the business.
Yeah.
But I like to think that I have about 60 to 70% business, 30 to 40% life.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice little ratio, a nice little balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And I think I've utilised photography to be able to do that kind of thing because I can also go to a hotel or an Airbnb or whatever it might be and say, hey, is there an opportunity to do like a contra in exchange for a stay where I take photos for you and whatnot?
Yeah.
So there's definitely like lots of pros to it as well, but it comes with its cons and stuff like that as well. But yeah, I really enjoy doing what I do, and I think I'm very grateful and lucky to have found photography because not a lot of people get to say that they doing something that they
How
love.
did you find it?
Yeah.
What was the background there?
Yeah, kind of had like a bit of an epiphany moment where my old man, he had a Nikon D70, and I would just kind of play around with it and take photos of random drops. Actually, it started off with my phone. I would take photos of like water droplets in my backyard with my phone and like get real close, and it was so funny looking back on that
dig
kind
them
of
out.
stuff. Yeah, love it. Oh, it's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
And I think that was my general curiosity and where that started.
Yeah.
And then eventually it kind of got to a point where my dad's like, oh, I got this camera if you want to just use that. Yeah. So I remember this one day I was behind my house and there was 2 massive trees. One contained white cockatoos and another one contained black cockatoos. Yeah. And they were having like a massive turf war. And I just sat there with my camera for about 45 minutes to an hour just taking photos of that. Yeah. And I just didn't even realise that time escaped me. I thought it'd been like maybe 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. I thought, this is really like fun, like interesting, like changing my settings and trying to figure everything out. Yeah. And I think that was like a real eureka epiphany type moment where I thought this could be pretty interesting to pursue. And I was in the middle of maritime college, and I think I was only doing maritime college because I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. Yeah. My old man's a marine pilot, so I thought maybe I'd continue the name and blah, blah. Yeah. But it wasn't always for me. It was kind of just something that I knew, you know, it would be good to kind of keep the name going, and it's something that I kind of enjoyed it, but I knew it wasn't for me. I knew I was just doing it because I didn't know what to do. Yeah. And then when I found that, and then I realised it was actually something I do enjoy, that's when I decided, oh yeah, cool, let's pursue this. Yeah. And then that's when it kind of started from there.
Do you remember what your first paid job was?
Yeah, actually. Yeah. I wish I could remember their names off the top of my head. It was a lovely couple, and it was a shoot for, I think it was $100, and it was just family photos. Yeah. Oh, wow. So I'm just going to take some.
Yeah. Has there been one that you've done that's like, holy shit, I'm working with this either business or this organization, or like one where you've just had that really surreal moment?
Yeah. The end of 21, I believe it was, I went on tour with, I wouldn't say tour. Yeah, it was a 2-day trip down to Yeppoon for New Year's Eve with a artist named, won't come to my head, but anyway.
We'll put it in the description.
We'll put it in the description. Mind blanked it. Anyway, but yeah, we went down to Yeppoon, and then we did a show on Yeppoon for New Year's Eve, and then we went to Brisbane and we did a show on New Year's Day. Yeah. And that was probably my highlight. Now, I've always wanted to do it ever since I started doing nightclub photography because I see all these touring artists and stuff like that. It was just a taste. It wasn't a full tour or anything like that, but to be able to, get paid and go down there and be a part of that experience, see all the behind the scenes stuff. Like, I've always been curious about how it works and whatnot. And it was just a really great experience. He was a great dude as well. Don't know why I can't remember any of his names or the name of his artists.
We'll be like another 20 minutes into the episode.
I'm just going to blurt it out.
You obviously love live music, and I guess you got to have this experience where like your favourite memory of photography was probably going on this tour with this so-called artist.
So-called. No, what?
We'll just say it each time.
Insert artist here. Like,
you just hit my voice over it. Just like Matt Corby.
Can we actually do that? Yeah. Producer.
It'll be shit. Yeah. But anyway, continue.
I was going to say, like, why do you feel like you like, do you want to do more of that work? Like, is it something where you want to go on tour with more artists or like get into that scene, that industry, or like do you like enjoy being in Cairns and like dominating the industry of Cairns?
Well, I think, yeah, it's interesting you say that because I've thought about it so many times in my head if I wanted to try and pursue something like that. But when I was in this big headspace of wanting to pursue that, I had partners at the time and it was a bit complicated to try and make it work. If I was to be successful, if I was to chase it and get it, I think obviously in hindsight, I probably would have just been like, nah, stuff it and just done it. But, you know, when you're in that moment, you try to be a good boyfriend and try and be fair and with everything and whatnot. But not to blame them or anything. I think it was just one of those things where you don't want to step on anyone's toes or be too...
it's always hard to make those things work.
I think so. But...
that's what I mean, because I think for you, like, one of the things that I've always noticed is no matter what business I look at in Cairns, like it might be in any sort of industry, you always like had some sort of like influence in that industry. Like I remember working with some clients in like the hospitality space, and then you did photography for them, tourism space, like you've done photography for them. It's just crazy to see how much you have sort of taken over Cairns a little bit in that space. You're like well recognized. So leaving that behind to sort of travel then is sort of like leaving that behind a little bit.
I think it was just, honestly, it's because of that scene with Gilligans. That, you know, I could sit here and say, oh, yeah, whatever, but I think it honestly just comes down to the fact that I don't know, humbly, obviously I can say, you know, I'm very happy with the success that I've had and whatnot, but I think when it comes down to what you were saying about people knowing me or whatever, I think it's literally just from that, from Gilligans. And
I think also
I don't know,
the quality of work.
The
quality of work, man. Like you see
I appreciate that.
some like say like food photographers, for example, that do food in Cairns. Or name any names, but like you can sort of see the quality in the work that you do.
I think I take big pride in my live music in Cairns. I will say that. I feel very I feel that I've been lucky enough to be blessed with the opportunity to work at Gilligans for all those years, and that's helped me really hone in on that craft, and that craft is live music. I think that's where I really excel in Cairns. But yeah, I think there's plenty of great photographers out there that kill it with weddings and other food photography and stuff like that as well that I would consider better than me. But I think it's just one of those things where I'm very lucky to have had the opportunity to do that. I think as well though, it goes in hand with my personality because I know I'm a very bubbly, outgoing guy. Kind of stick out like a sore thumb with my height as well. You can't really miss me.
Love that.
So moving forward, is that just like you're happy with the momentum? Like you're in a good place at the moment. You've got like a diverse portfolio. The work's like varied. You're just happy to keep going along with that.
Yeah, I think I'm in the mode now of sort of saving up for a house. Not that I think I can even afford that by myself. I think I'm gonna honestly, it's crazy.
I was gonna say, how do you deal with that pressure then? Being a freelancer or being like your own boss?
I know what you mean. Because, I think it's one of those things where you've got to understand that you're not always going to have guaranteed work. It's not going to always be like that unless you have tenders or some sort of setup with certain businesses. But I just try to put money to the side in a savings account, and then I have my savings account, and then I also have an account for... Well, it's kind of like a backup on a backup, really. Savings is for actual savings, and then I have a backup account just to dip into if I ever need to. But these days, it's been great. I haven't really needed to. It was kind of something I've been doing for the past 8 years, and I've just stuck to it because you never know what's going to come around the corner.
I think I asked Liam a similar question of, like, we've just started, like, talking about money in regards to, like, your business and passion and everything like that. I think I asked Liam the question of, like, how do you balance... you know that you're going to have to take on like generic commercial jobs that have no passion or spirit behind it, balance that with the lifestyle, which, you know, you're so passionate about. And I think you said it was like a 70-30 like mix, which is incredible. I think most people probably like a 90-10, 95-5. So how do you, I suppose, come to grips knowing that, hey, you know, you're trying to save for a house too. Maybe I have to take on the generic jobs that I don't feel anything for.
Yeah, well, I definitely do that at the moment anyway, because I know that if I didn't, I would just be missing out on...
Yeah.
It's just, and a lot of the time with commercial jobs, not commercial, conference type stuff, it's so simple because you're basically being paid to be there and then cover photos throughout the day of speeches and key things and whatnot. So those kind of things I don't really mind. And also, I'm pretty patient when it comes to that kind of stuff. I think people don't want to be putting themselves in that line of work sometimes because they're like, oh, I've got better things to do. I could be doing this, could be doing that. But honestly, if you just put aside, usually what I do is I'll put aside about maybe 3 or 4 hours a day just to do some work, get some editing done and whatever, and reply to people, emails, messages, whatever it might be. And at the end of the week, I'll decide whether or not I just need to do a massive day of editing. I'm like, because obviously sometimes you kind of let it go a little bit too long and you're like, that's a bit naughty. I should be, So definitely. I think the one thing I've realised over the years is having a bit more, not willpower, but just being more disciplined. Just have a bit more discipline, and that all goes hand in hand with the work time as well. Because if I'm, I might have this week I had about 5 jobs, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got to then edit all, like usually I'll give my clients about 3 to 5 days return time. That's my sort of go-to. And sometimes if I'm in a really busy season, I'll stretch it out to 5 to 7, maybe 2 weeks. Yeah. It just depends on what's happening, and I'm always very transparent with my clients about it because I don't want to be in a position where, they're like, what's going on, blah blah blah. Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoy
that structure. Yeah. What are some of the mistakes that you've made that you've had to learn from? Like, have you ever?
I was just gonna ask that question.
Have you ever had
when have you dropped the ball?
A client not pay, so you have to get a deposit up front, or what's
camera fail,
or camera battery's not charged, or what are some of the things that stand out?
Well, not to name any clients, obviously. Names, but there was...
we end businesses here, bro. We've ended
half a dozen cafes again. So.
I made a bit of a blunder once. I did a 4-hour shoot with a business, and they had a bunch of models there for the job. And I was going from that straight to Grass is Greener After to cover that shoot. Yeah. And it was literally 30 minutes between when that ended and when I had to kind of be there to get started and get into it. And when you're at a festival, the way you work is because you kind of just you just fly through data. So you just kind of take about maybe 1,000, 1,200 photos, whatever it might be, go to your laptop, drag and drop, dump and delete, and then you come back and then go back out and smash it all again. Yeah. And then just kind of rinse and repeat. And I just had a moment of blankness where I forgot to... I must have, because what happened is all the photos went to one folder, and when I went to transfer the photos, I transferred it from one folder, but forgot to check the other one, or I don't know what I did, to be honest, but it was stupid, whatever it was. And essentially I deleted them, but because it would have been okay if I hadn't then used that card for the rest of the day, because recovery allows you to go back 2,000 photos or whatever it might be. But I blitzed through about 3,000 or 4,000 photos that night, and when I tried to recover it, I got maybe 50 to 100 photos, if that. Yeah.
And were you these were the only 50 to 100 look good?
Yeah, and I kind of, they were waiting on me to reply to them and stuff like that, and I was wigging out, and I didn't want to say anything until I had it all sorted. I was I felt pretty confident I could get it back. Yeah. And then I did a little bit more research and realised pretty quickly that there was no way I was getting it back. Yeah. I hit up my mate who's he fixes hardware and hard drives and whatnot. And he's like, yeah, man, honestly, if you've taken all those photos after it, it's just, it gets logged, it gets pushed back and whatever. And then, so that was a bit of a blunder, obviously.
How did you deal with it, talking to them?
They were really, obviously they were a little bit upset at first. And they were also really nice about it and said, well, we'll pay you for your time, but obviously we won't pay you for your editing. And I said, honestly, keep the money. I'm so sorry. Take that as my token of apology because, it was pretty yeah, it's not a good feeling
No.
for sure.
When your gut just drops when you realise.
Yeah, but luckily that's the only. Well, actually, it's happened in 11 years. It's happened 2 times. That was one of them. The other one was a family photo shoot, and it was for great friends of mine.
Yeah.
Their brother. So it was 2 sons and a mum, and one of the sons was going to the army, and they wanted to get some nice photos. He was going to bloody Iraq or Afghanistan or something to do a bit of a round trip there. So he was going away for like a year, I think. And so these were kind of like the last photos that, you know, who knows what could have happened over there. And yeah, I somehow just deleted them as well. I can't remember. That was probably about 10 years ago. That was when I pretty much first started. And then I hadn't made a mistake for about 9 years after that. And then, but that sucked a lot. Yeah. But the beauty of that, well, not the beauty of it, but a good thing that came out of that later on, about maybe 6 years down the track, I was able to take those photos for them again. Yeah. In way better. Like, obviously, because as I've gotten better, I felt more confident with my photography, and I was able to get them good, crisp family photos, whereas if I given them back then, they'd be crap. Yeah. But it's not about the quality of the photos. It was the fact that they had their son that was potentially going to war, and who knows, you know? But, those are some blunders that have happened. And then there's just, small things over the years that helps you determine a better way to handle situations and tackle them. And you learn the do's and don'ts of the trade and certain things that you should be doing when you're not. And, it's one of those big learning curves. Yeah. My whole business has been. Yeah, and that's all you can do is trial and error. Yeah. Ask a few questions here and there to other businesses and other photographers and artists. Yeah. But you're all on your own mostly for most of the way. Yeah, unless you have a buddy background in business or whatever like you do.
Do you think you'll ever cross over into that videography space or?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. I've talked about this with a lot of people as well. I dabbled into it. I did some real estate work with a company, Remax. 2 years ago now. It was in 21 or 22. Yeah, 22. And I did it for about 8 months. And while I was there, I had to do video. And it was a very daunting thing because I hadn't really done much to begin with. I just thought if I throw myself in the deep end, this is going to be the best way to learn. Yeah. And then, after a while, it consumed too much of my life because I was still doing my freelancing plus that as well. And I'd probably be doing about 20 hours of them a week and then about 10 to 15 or something like that with actually not more than that when it comes into the editing. But yeah, basically I was used to this lifestyle that I love, which I love. I really enjoy this time I have to be able to explore and go adventuring and kind of, make my own rules and whatnot. So I think when that kind of got taken away from me, I realised how much I missed it. Yeah. And it was mainly, while I was working, it was mainly just for money, right? Yeah. And I've never really been a materialistic guy. So I realised if it's costing me so much of my ability to go out and do things and explore and do all these things that I like to do, live my lifestyle the way I want to, I felt I didn't really need it because the money's great without it. And all it was just another avenue to go down and try. And I'm glad I did it. No regrets, absolutely. They were great. It was a great experience. But I came out of that with a bit of video experience, with a fair bit of video experience, but I didn't pursue it. Yeah. It wasn't for me. I'm very happy with what I do. I really enjoy photography. Yeah. I know, again, it'd be great to learn video because it would be better for my portfolio as well, money-wise. Yeah. But then again, I just always kind of bring it back down to life, and I think it's just not too...
What you value and what you prioritize.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what your craft is your niche.
Yeah.
Would you say as like a creative then, you sort of create your own lane or stand out as a creative? Because I guess over those 10 years of doing photography, you've probably found a style that sort of suits you or stands out to people. What would you sort of say to people that are trying to find maybe their own distinct style? Maybe it might be in photography or videography or some other creative.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was thinking about that the other day, and I really over the years, I've kind of gotten to a point where I realize I don't really have per se a style.
Yeah.
It's kind of whatever I'm shooting, whatever emotion, whatever I get, whatever feeling I get from that shoot is how I'll try to replicate that with my photos.
Yeah, cool.
And it's all to do with the story you're trying to create, the scene that you're working with, or whatever it might be, and obviously whatever the business might be, or whatever you're trying to perceive through these photos for. Maybe it's a nature shot or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would say to other people to find inspiration and work off that, because I did that as well, and then after a while, you start to develop your own style within that inspired one. So you kind of base your edits, this is what I did. I based my edits off certain photographers, or I utilize it as a tool to try and learn how they did it. And then if I ever nailed or came close to what they were doing with their edits, I then was like, okay, cool, I know how to do that. And then use certain editing styles and kind of pick and pull whatever style that suits the scene and the shoot.
And make it your own. Really make it your own.
Yeah, and make it my own. And that's just kind of something that's happened over the years where I haven't really... I think I would actually say that my preferred style is sort of like dark and moody, but I've grown to really like this soft, almost not flat, it's kind of like a real low... It's like deep blacks and low contrast. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, I guess there is a bit of a style that I prefer, but it really does vary. I can do a shoot one way and then completely different, just depending how I feel on the day or how I feel about the photos or what the couple are like. Sometimes if they're like a bit of a, I know sometimes people are like grungy and, I just really like to be able to be flexible in my way of editing because I don't want to limit myself to a certain way, a certain style. I like to use music. Music is a really cool way to change the way you think about it. When you got this music in your head and you're listening to it, it can be like disco funk or whatever it might be. I don't know, it kind of unlocks a little part of your brain that makes you try something else different and something different there and whatever. And if I'm doing say if I do wedding photos, I like to listen to a lot of jazz and music because it's kind of like a, it's
so cool.
It's all different. Like if I'm editing Gilligans photos or any kind of live music events or whatever, I'll just listen to anything like Techno House.
So if you're editing on a Monday morning at 8 a.m. Gilligans photos, you're just listening to some Tech House.
I really enjoy listening to music and allowing that to dictate how I edit.
That's so sick.
That. That's interesting.
So that helps you get into some kind of a flow state.
In
your creativity.
Yeah. That and my Ritalin.
It is. That was a secret.
So is that why
honestly,
before when you said you do 3 to 4 hours, that's till the Ritalin runs out, and then you're like, that's a redose.
Yeah.
Do you think that's kind of how you're so obviously ADHD? That's kind of your career path. It's you've been able to hyperfixate on either editing and then you can go do something else. You don't have to sit at a desk and do something from 9 till 5.
What do you mean? As in? That's allowed, my lifestyles.
Yeah,
that's why my lifestyle is the way it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think as well, I definitely have over the years needed Ritalin because it actually my ADD is so bad. Well, not so bad, but gets to a point where I get so distracted so easily, and Ritalin really helps. It just switches you on, and just just kind of empties your mind of anything else that's going on in the background, and you just fixate on what you want to do.
Yeah,
that's definitely helped, but. I think definitely helps with the adventure aspect to my lifestyle for sure. My ADD, just bloody energy coursing through my veins 24/7. Yeah, just gotta get it out of there somehow.
Again, probably why you're such a high energy person as well too. You're so positive, you just forget about everything that pissing you off.
Yeah, honestly, it takes a lot to piss me off or something. Yeah. I don't know. I feel very. Constantly just feel very calm and chill, and I think that's also a big play in my upbringing as well. Yeah, my mum has always been so close to me, and she's always been that person. She's a mental health nurse as well. Yeah, so I think there's certain things that she's taught me over the years on how to, just the best way to be mentally, to help yourself be a certain way or whatever. But anyway, also my Kwanjang, my I did Taekwondo for a few years, so I
Yeah.
just whipped that word out there.
Yeah,
I was like,
Sorry,
damn,
no,
we're all
my
pausing.
master,
Yeah.
sorry. The guy who used to teach me at Taekwondo, he also played a big part in my, I guess, development from an early age, from like 12 or 13, because he taught me this thing called STAR, which is like stop, think, act, react.
Yeah.
And if you implement that, and say if you're in like a heated conversation or whatever, that has just kind of like, I've just absorbed that into my body,
Yeah.
and I feel that I don't even think about those words anymore. It is me.
Yeah.
Like I just feel, yeah. I don't know how we got to this.
No, that's crazy. Like
That's really
something, you know, something that you were taught 20 years ago is still just like burned in your brain and something you still live your life by, and clearly it's worked. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's really, really interesting.
Is there any? Oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
you go.
Is there any dream shoots that you
Yeah,
have in
that you wanna
mind, like
work with? I was
iconic
gonna say the same thing,
sunsets
yeah.
or like iconic skylines or
any
something in the world?
businesses or artists that you would just like.
Actually, yeah, I've always wanted to shoot the 1975.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
I don't know. I've seen their live performances and they just look crazy
Yeah.
and fun and eccentric and out there. And client liaison, they're fun too.
Yep.
I'd love to shoot them.
Or when this reel goes viral, everyone tag them in the comments.
Yeah, I think about that from time to time, but nothing really sparks out too much.
Anywhere you want to visit, like
I'd love
Northern
to do,
Lights or
honestly,
something.
travel weddings would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, what's the word?
Destination.
Like,
wedding.
Destination
wedding,
weddings. Yeah, destination weddings
That'd
would
be
be
sick.
amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool career path to go down, because obviously you're traveling while also doing this.
That work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing work and whatnot. I think that's pretty much everyone's bloody goal.
Yeah.
Not everyone's, but you know what I mean? It's up there as
Yeah.
one of those sort of highlight jobs to have.
Yeah.
Traveling and working. Yeah, it's a good place to be.
So looking forward, we're just keeping the momentum with what you're going.
Yeah.
Yes, to each opportunity, kind of still keeping that work-life kind of balance. Is there like where are we finding you? What's the socials? What's the business? Like if anyone wants to reach out and get some work, where are they going for that?
Or you can find me at Toby Stanley Photography on Instagram.
Yeah.
I have a website, just tobystanley.com, to be honest.
Yeah.
Email is always the best.
Yeah.
For sure.
I love that.
Lock him in.
Yeah. We'll go to a boudoir photo shoot. Get that calendar going.
Strap in.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on that note. We are going to go home and go to bed.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Genuinely,
Thank you
yeah.
very
No,
much
guys.
for coming.
So you're a
appreciate
legend,
it.
mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Appreciate
Alright,
it, guys.
adios.
Thank
Cairns
you so much
institution.
for having me.
Thanks,
Thank
bro.
you, bro.